What's going on, YouTube? It is the Dual Threat Podcast here, your daily news source for all things sports. My name is Drew. This is my co-host.
Everybody, how's it going? It's Jacob.
Let's go. We're going to get straight into it. The predictions for this weekend. And we're going to start with the Alabama Crimson Tide versus Arkansas Razorbacks. We've got a 2 versus, I believe it's 18?
20.
20 now. So Jacob, why don't you start us off with the 2:30 CBS on SEC game?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Touchdown, Alabama. I think we're going to be hearing a lot of. I talked about this in our over and under reactions video a couple days ago. I think Alabama is going to have a get right game this week. Listen, Arkansas, this is a great game to be a bounce back game. At home, you're coming back home. Maybe they were kind of looking past the down and out Aggies. They were looking forward to Alabama. This might be a game where they come out and they say, you know what? We were number 10 for a reason, and we were considered SEC West contenders for a reason, and they come out and they beat Alabama. I just personally cannot see that happening. I think we're going to have a little bit of the opposite effect where Arkansas wasn't looking past A&M. They tried for that game, and their momentum because of that fumble just got absolutely snatched, and it carries over into this game. And on the flip side, I think Nick Saban and Alabama come out, and they're a little ticked off. They got a little fire lit under them because of how the media is talking about them. And after that Texas game, I just think they're looking for a get right game to get back on track to being the Alabama that we know and love. Just a couple key stats that I want to point out. Arkansas, KJ Jefferson. I mean, he's out here looking like Cam Newton every week, right? Running the ball great, throwing the ball also very well, but his real strength is running the ball, and it shows in their offensive rushing yards, 243.8 yards per game. Like, that's really good. The problem is Alabama's rush yards allowed is 62.5, which is not very many yards. And that's including a Texas team who has widely thought of as one of the best running backs in the country in Bijan Robinson. That's included in there. This Alabama defense is the same every year, and they are going to be very, very, very stout against kind of a beaten and just kind of down on their luck Arkansas team. So I think I'm not going to get cute calling Alabama or an Arkansas upset. I think Alabama goes at Arkansas. I think it's a little bit closer actually than the Vegas 17.5 point spread. I would take probably Arkansas with 17.5 points if I had to choose, but I think it's handled pretty decently, kind of like a 35-24 Alabama win, kind of in that range outcome. Drew, how are you feeling about this game?
So my main concern just for Alabama is that, like you've said in the past, that they haven't played very well on the road in an environment that's, very deadly. You look at last year, it seemed that their offense, has a hard time communicating and getting things right when they're in an environment that, because everybody comes to play Alabama the best they can. I mean, that's just that position that Alabama's in. It's always been since Nick Saban has been there. And so, I mean, you look at the mistakes that they made early on in that Texas game. I mean, they had 15 penalties for 100 yards. That's the most in the Nick Saban era. And I can promise you that that will not happen again. And the thing is, this seems like very similar. Let me take y'all in just a little bit of a time machine here to 2019. When you look at LSU, the second week of the year, they go into Texas. They play them close. Everybody thinks, wow, Texas may be back here because they played an SEC team very close. Texas loses a couple of weeks. Later, Alabama starts to look a bit better, kind of like LSU. Everybody thought, LSU was an improved team from the year before, but I believe they ended up with 4 or 5 losses after they lost to A&M in that crazy 7 overtime game, and then played UCF in the bowl game. But I think it's very similar to that. You know, they both had a chip on their shoulder. They had something to prove. They were a close win over Texas, and then they just get better and better every single week. And you look at the numbers that they have on offense. Um, they were 5 for 15 on third downs against Texas. I mean, that's not horrible, but that's not Alabama. And you know that they've always had like one or two elite wide receivers um, in the past couple of years, and that's really why they've been so dominant with their new spread offense that Nick Saban has been developing there. But I think we're going to see this week a wide receiver really shine on that Alabama team, and it may be Trayshawn Holden. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Maybe Jamar Gibbs. I don't know. Both of those are supposed to be the ones that are supposed to pop out and really be the go-to guy. But I'm thinking it's Trayshawn Holden. So that is mine. I actually think Alabama's going to cover this spread, unlike Jacob. I think it's going to be a 21-point game. If I had to guess, I'm going to put my prediction here. 42-21, Alabama. They are again at the number one spot when we watched Georgia last week struggle. And I believe that, they're going to be the team to beat again this year. Jacob?
Yeah, I agree with almost everything you said. Like I said, I think it's going to be a little tighter, but yeah, I think after that Texas game, I would have hated to be on that bus. I would have hated to be one of those Alabama players that practice that next week. And like you were mentioning, the penalties, I don't think they're going to be nearly as sloppy, and I think they're gonna handle business. Let's just say that. All right, for our next game, everybody, I'm going to sound like a broken record. You're going to hate the Dual Threat podcast by the end of this video, but the Kansas Jayhawks are our next prediction. Unranked against unranked Iowa State. Unranked by the Associate Press, not by us. They're very, very highly regarded around here, and we're going to predict that game next. My opinion, it's going to be a beat down by Kansas. Iowa State somehow is favored by 3 points. I think it's partially because they just played Baylor and kept it within 7 and have at least had some decent competition, even though Kansas just beat 3-0 Duke. Not historically a great football program. So I think that's kind of the thought behind it, is that Iowa State has a little bit more under their belt so far this season, even though Kansas has the better record and Kansas is home. That's the part that really, really confuses me. But Drew, why don't you throw me up on the bulletin board really quick, and I'm going to talk through a couple things about this game. So as you can see, the Iowa State defense, the Iowa State offense and the Kansas defense line up almost perfectly with yards allowed and yards gained by those two teams. They match up pretty perfectly, which kind of makes me think we've seen what Iowa State can be. They're going to be a kind of 25 to 30 point team, and that's kind of where they're going to live. The flip side of that, though, is Iowa State's defense has been good. Granted, their first couple games, one of them was a game that had 8 combined points against Iowa, but their defense has been good. And so that makes me kind of think Kansas is out here scoring 50 points a game. Iowa State has not been giving up very many points. Something's got to give. And the 200 plus yard differential between Kansas's offense and Iowa State's defense is going to be the difference in this game. But I think Kansas gets the better of them. I think Kansas is way closer to their 471 yards and 50 points per game in this game than Iowa State is to their 260 yards allowed per game. So what I think this really comes down to, I think Iowa State is going to be, like I said, around that 25-ish point range. But I still think Kansas, maybe Iowa State is the best defense they've played to date, but I still think they're going to come out and handle business, do what Kansas does, and maybe final prediction, maybe 38-27 range, kind of like that. I do think they're going to handle it. I think people are going to really see that after this game. I know I've been saying it a lot, and it's probably getting annoying, so I'll stop yelling. But Kansas is going to be in the conversation for the Big 12 at the end of the season, and I don't want to say anything yet, but the Big 12 winner is always in the playoff conversation. That is all I'm going to say. You will not hear me come out here and say the Kansas Jayhawks should be in the playoff. But if they're in contention for the Big 12, that means they're in contention for the playoff. That's all I'm going to say. What did I say? 38-27 Kansas Jayhawk victory over Iowa State.
All right. Well, I mean, I think I'm gonna agree with you here. I think we see a Kansas upset, but that's only if in this scenario here. Let me go ahead and take me to my billboard here to show you on the bulletin board that this game will rely on Jalen Daniels' shoulders. This man has been elite all year. He is the sole reason why Kansas is 4-0 at this moment. Their defense is not great. They allow almost 30 points a game, which Jacob said earlier. Iowa State scores 30 points a game. That's where they're going to be. So the thing is, can Kansas overrule Iowa State's defense? I personally think they can. If I've seen what Jalen Daniels is potential, I've seen what what he can do, and I've seen his potential. He played lights out against Duke. They have a great coach there in Mike Elko, who was the defensive coordinator at Texas A&M, I believe. And we know how Texas A&M's defense has been in the last couple of years. Duke is very solid defensively. I mean, they don't have that kind of athletes that he had at Texas A&M, but he's still a good defensive mind. And you saw the numbers that Jalen Daniels put up against Duke. So I'm thinking that if he can put those kind of numbers up against a defensive mind, why can't he do the same thing against Iowa State? I think I see Jalen Daniels really start to, I mean, he's already 6th on the Heisman odds, but he may just be a top 3 candidate after this game if they can win this game, because it's going to be because of him. I, however, think the game's going to be a little bit closer. I think it's going to also be a little bit more high scoring. I think maybe 45-48 Kansas is going to be my prediction. I don't know what the over-under is, but I may just hammer this over here. So yeah, I think that's my prediction for this game, and I believe that is all. Jacob, you got anything else for us?
No, I think that's it. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We will see you all tomorrow. For tomorrow night, we will be releasing our first episode back of Friday Night Lines. Make sure to come watch, especially if you're looking for some lines to be betting for this Saturday. Yeah, Friday Night Lines tomorrow, and make sure to drop a comment, because you want to roast us for loving Kansas so much because they're going to lose to Iowa State by like 15 points and just come back and just absolutely demolish us in the comments. But not until Saturday, because it hasn't happened yet. Until then, riding with the Jayhawks. And yeah, make sure to comment, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. See y'all later.